All right,
We're on the way.
Welcome to the good stuff. I just realised I didn't check the episode.
Oh no.
It was the big episode 36, I want to say.
I say 36, yeah. It's a safe bet.
All right, hang on. 36, the big
36
episode 36.
There we go.
After the successful episode last week with Dead Man.
That was
enjoyed
good.
That was a good chat.
That's
I
a
think
great
we're
episode.
Probably going to get him back.
Yeah.
He doesn't know
Friend of the
exactly
pod.
when yet, but we have some ideas. Friend of the pod.
Also,
Friend of the
like-
pod, Dead Man.
I quite enjoy the Tim Ferriss episodes when he has Kevin Rose. And
Yeah.
they just have like, I think they just call them random shows. But they cover a lot of territory.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I tend to like gravitate toward those ones now. When I see them, I'm like, yes. And I think they do them like, I don't know, just randomly, obviously. But like, I think they kind of appear every quarter. And yeah, I find myself gravitating to those immediately. It's almost like the algorithm knows we're just going to serve you this episode because
Really?
we know you want it. Yeah.
I find Kevin Rose a tad annoying.
I just like the way you know, you can
No, I
tell
know
they're
you mean. I
mates
do listen
in
to
real
them every
life,
now and
and I
again.
think
Yeah.
that makes a big difference as well. Like, so I kind of like had a similar vibe last week with our episode. It was just kind of quite natural and yeah, it was good. Covered
It
some
was.
territory.
I think it wasn't the usual format in the sense that we all sat in a line and we all stared out at the sea.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there was something about that. Like, 'cause they often say, like, you know, as blokes, when you talk,
Yeah.
like, if you want to get into a subject, don't sit opposite like we are right now.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more confrontational. But, like, you know, that's why, you know, if blokes want to talk, they'll go fishing or you go for a walk and you do something where you're side by side.
Yeah.
You're moving through a place. So maybe there's something there like that, that's just like a good format. But I reckon Free in the Van would have been a bit much.
A bit tight. Yeah.
last week. But
Could change the seating configuration. I mean, if you're watching along at home, obviously we're sat side
oh
by
yeah, by
side.
the beach. Yeah.
Yeah. With our backs to the beach, as you pointed out. But no, it was good.
So all right. So when we
This
were
week.
waiting for coffee, you had a good idea, which was we were talking about the I don't know. I guess we call it like the junior developer fallacy.
Yes.
Which comes up, which is that, like, okay, well, coding is here, like, oh, it's like senior devs we still need, but we don't need junior devs, and therefore we'll never get senior devs anymore because all of a sudden, like, this junior dev work isn't being hired for.
Yeah.
And I think our view is that, like, oh, that's kind of nonsense. So we should probably explain.
Let's explore it.
Do you want to kick off? What do you want me to do?
It's a good like episode potentially
Yeah.
to explore a few fallacies.
yeah, we'll
that
see what
float
other
around.
fallacies
See
turn
what
up,
comes
but-
out. Yeah. Well, it's like obviously kind of subject of debate has been for probably most of the year. I think. I think we may have even like intimated this at some point in an earlier pod. But it seems like the low-hanging fruit for anything AI related is just to say, if you're, and I would go so far as to say, I think this extends to most like junior roles.
I've
in
heard
most
this from
professions.
junior lawyers,
Junior
and
lawyers
junior
as well.
accountants,
Yep.
as well as two other industries.
Yeah, and
People have expressed this concern.
yeah. So essentially, that these are the jobs that are going to go away, and no one's going to hire junior roles anymore because AI can do those jobs. And what does that mean for people coming out of college and university, and how are they going to get jobs? And that's the kind of the concern. And I think so I think our position is more that like actually, yeah, drop the meme in.
We'll do the meme.
Jamie,
Like,
get the
if,
meme.
we,
up.
if we had an editor,
Show the meme.
that's what would have happened. So imagine
yeah.
that we had an editor, and he just dropped in the meme.
But yeah,
Okay.
I just suspect that we're going to it's going to be a boon for junior devs.
Yeah, like I mean, I can think of like several different, like, I don't know, technology advancements that come and go that kind of change the way people do any sort of work. And it's my experience is it's always the juniors that actually adopt to it because they don't have that baggage of the old stuff. But to me, the fundamental fallacy and the error here is assuming that the work and the industry and the company is all packaged the same, and not that there's some disruption to the business model.
Yeah.
So it would be, like, because when let's take law, because like you've got a legal background. I've worked at a law firm for several years. We have an idea of what was going on. And I'd say, like, I remember a partner at this big London law firm I was in explaining how law worked. And he came in and he said, all right, just to give you an idea of how it works, what we do is we have like junior lawyers, and the job of the junior lawyer is that we'll tell them what to do, and they do something, and they'll work for hours, and we consider everything they've done as shit. but we sort of make them do it. And then the associate will come along and they'll take the junior lawyer's work and they'll just pretty much cross it all out and start again, and then they redo it. And then the senior associate comes in and he pretty much crosses the whole thing out and starts again and redoes it. And then eventually the partner comes in and he'll just go, no, cross them all out. I do this is the opinion, and then that's what goes out to the client. And this is, look, this is not efficient. It's not how it is, but I just want to explain like how the different levels of this guy was, I think at the time he was a former partner that had like taken a step back and was like working in other areas of the firm. He's like, this is the reality of what happens. People won't admit this because it kind of looks a bit wasteful. It's like, he said, and then what we used to do is like back in the olden days, we'd weigh up like all the paperwork that was generated to get to that point, and then that's how we charge. We go, oh, yeah, it's like a 6-inch file, so that's like $600,000. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
This is like nonsense. And like one of the things that led me to believe is that, you know what, it's not necessarily that the junior is there doing anything useful here, and maybe all along the senior could have just done the work on their own. And if you're telling me now that you're like, right, well, a junior lawyer is out of business because they don't add anything to it, I'd say like, look, the whole structure of your Sizzy law firm for seemingly about 30 years has been that the junior lawyer didn't add any value anyway. They were really just hanging around until they could be senior lawyers. What I think is interesting is say like, well, what does the senior lawyer have that the junior lawyer doesn't have, and like why could a junior lawyer that's not more tech savvy start to act more like a senior lawyer because they have better access to precedents and legal arguments and various things because they understand how to work with the technology of that sort of thing. And maybe they could do that, or maybe they could, maybe the way that we carve up like legal work in the future isn't that there's just, these like 4 big pillars of like legal work that you would go in with commercial and real estate and corporate and I can't remember them all now. Litigation, insolvency.
But I think your interesting point about this is actually like, how does the business model change? And so I think like you've got a pyramid there. Yeah. Not a pyramid scheme. I mean, maybe. But it looks like a pyramid, and at the bottom of the pyramid you've got the kind of the cheapest labour source that tends to do the bulk of the initial work. Yeah,
they do all the photocopying.
Yeah,
they look for all their legal discovery.
Yeah, it eventually works its way up to the partner, but of course, like they still bill you out. I think what you might see is just this like inversion of that pyramid, where you've got like more experienced lawyers doing like way more work. But I don't think that necessarily means that you don't have junior lawyers. I think just the role changes, how they get into the firm changes. I don't think that necessarily also doesn't mean we have too many lawyers either. Like you can just have an oversupply of it in a profession. And I think like law is very much like an in vogue, almost like a generalist. Well, it's become a bit more generalist because it's undergraduate in Australia, and we tend to produce a lot of lawyers. And I know the reason I studied law was because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do at 16, 17, right? So it just seemed like more of an insurance policy than it was a deliberate decision to make a career out of it. Yeah. But yeah, so there's the like incentive angle I think that exists like structurally within our economy, at least locally in Australia. I'm not sure how it necessarily is in the US or in the UK, where it tends to be more postgraduate, I think anyway. But that does produce a surplus of lawyers. And so you've got this like machine they need to feed into, which is quite brutal, burns them out very quickly, and you either thrive and become an associate, or you tend to just go into a separate discipline. Often people who've studied law have studied something else as well. In my case, I went into banking. So there's like there is a lot of churn as well that naturally exists because there's a lot of people going into that system. And I think maybe all you do is you get to a point where like that churn is maybe quicker as well to some degree, where people figure this stuff out faster. Yeah. Because you're actually doing work that's more meaningful and more substantive earlier because you've got tools to support you, rather than just turning up and doing a photocopy. And I think that's
work
valuable.
is repetitive as well, right? Yeah. So there's this assumption that like, we have to have this one, as you said, like, let's take the pyramid structure, and so there's one senior lawyer at the top, and we need that senior lawyer apparently because they can do things that nobody else can do. I mean, who knows? Maybe for some bits of the work. I imagine that there's like a shit ton of just repetitive work that's almost exactly the same, just done carbon copy. And I know there is, because like we used to, like the law firm I was at, would pay exorbitant prices for legal templates that just did all this stuff for you. So I would imagine, let's say I was a junior lawyer and I was looking at the industry and I'd be like, you know what, I don't know if this industry is going to survive, but obviously people need like transactional stuff. So, maybe I would go out and I'd start to specialize in just transactionals, like transactional systems in a particular area optimized by AI. And somebody needs to start a business there. To start that business, you need to know enough about law and how it all works, and you need to be able to operate it, and you need to be able to stand up and like be the person that's regulated or whatever. But you don't necessarily need to be a senior lawyer. You don't necessarily need several layers of senior lawyer above you.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm a junior lawyer and I can't get a job in a traditional law firm, I'm exactly the sort of person that would go and do that. The senior lawyer isn't going to go and do that. They're not going to go and cannibalize their own industry like that. It's always going to be the junior people that step outside and cannibalize that industry and figure out those new jobs.
Yeah.
I always think the root of this fallacy is just the lack of imagination, which sounds a bit harsh because it is really hard to imagine like what the future looks like when you're not there. To understand that, like, things will change. Someone will figure out, someone who's in the right space with the right knowledge in that industry will figure out that change, and it's most likely to be all the young people in that industry. So I think similarly, like there'll be, like, we talked about all in podcasts where Jason constantly talks about like the death of junior engineers and how it's a problem because then there'll be no senior engineers, and it's like, it's just not true. Like people are going to get really, like there's always people that just get super into programming and become senior engineers. Half the time they're about 20 anyway, and they've been into it since they were 10 because they just fucking love it. Like there's always going to be those people that exist. What's more likely to happen is that, like, there's not going to be massive software engineering shops. So what will there be instead? It's not like, we're still going to keep the same industry where there's like 100 big SaaS companies, and they just don't employ anyone, so there's no jobs. And it's like, right, or all those people that have software engineering skills go and start new businesses. All right, so what sort of businesses might they start? Well, they'll start a lot of software engineering businesses because that's what they know. Okay, so are we still going to just have 100 SaaS companies, or do we now have like 1 million SaaS companies? Okay, well, what would that look like? Well, they'd have to start niching down a lot. And so you're going to get like a lot more software, a lot cheaper, very niche and very specific for your use case because somebody can come along and do it. And like you brought up Tim Ferriss earlier. He always used to quote Kevin Kelly's 1,000 True Fans. This is the future of software engineering. It's not about being like a SaaS company with like 10 million users and that's the only way to make it. It's about being like really niche on a subject that you really understand and you master the craft around, and then you give exactly what's required to 1,000 people globally, and that's more than enough to support you.
37 Signals approach. Albeit at a much bigger scale, but that's kind of their belief system.
And I think it really is just like that. Like, of course that will likely happen. It doesn't, but then every one of those junior engineers that never got the opportunity to become a senior engineer in a big company, it's like we don't necessarily need senior engineers in big companies. Like, we can still get to senior engineers or competent engineers, which is what you're after, by just the hobbyists, by the wizards that just do this stuff for their own desires. Like, it could be in academia that it happens. It could be that everybody just starts their own business.
I think one of the other aspects of, and again, this is just me being subjective to a degree, but I do wonder whether or not like you actually have greater impact at more senior levels, because like a lot of those guys have essentially like abdicated responsibility for the tooling anyway. They're basically in pure delegation mode. So they don't even know what's coming up the pipe. So I kind of wonder if those kinds of people would be more exposed. And there's just an assumption that, like, no, those guys are the ones that know how the game works. The game's changing.
I think so, but I think it's part of the same mechanism, in the sense that it's because the industry will change. They're right that if you're the more senior person in that company, you can rest on your laurels a little bit because you're the one that fires the junior people. But I think what happens is just your style of company becomes less effective and efficient, and then all the people that know what they're doing just step outside and build competitors. I mean, it's a tale as old as day, right? Like, it's just, it's not always obvious like what the competitor is to build, otherwise we'd all be billionaires because we'd be fantastic investors on everything. But
it'd be obvious. Yeah, it also does seem to me that like some companies will just use this as an opportunity to kind of cut deadwood inside their business anyway. They'll go, well, AI's here, let's just remove a whole heap of headcount that we didn't deem, productive anyway. Or maybe they overhired, or maybe the macros have changed. But AI is a nice convenient excuse for some of that stuff as well.
Yeah, I don't think you can get too worked up about that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I know, like, it's hard, right? If you're sitting on a bunch of debt and you've got problems and you need like the cash flow coming in, it's horrible to lose a job. Like nobody, don't kind of wish that on anybody, but you can't really just have companies that employ people for no reason. They tend to be zombies, and they won't be competitive, and you're basically dead anyway.
Yeah.
At that point, as an industry.
Yeah, it's a strange debate. I mean, it is also just like needless crystal balling, I think, to some degree.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who it serves necessarily. And maybe there are just like vested interests that do benefit either side from having this debate to some degree, but it just seems to me that like there is this whole heap of, like there's just an access to intelligence now that you just couldn't necessarily get for such a long time. And that just seems to me it would be beneficial to everybody. Now, what we're talking about is like the container of like work. The container of work was probably going to change. So how you get remunerated for your essentially your time and output. That might just morph into something completely different, but it always has. Like it's always been that way.
Yeah.
Job functions, they've evolved. As you said, like, we didn't have junior developers 100 plus years ago. So that's a relatively new thing. We had lamplighters, back in the day. We don't have those anymore. There is this natural evolution as well.
Maybe we should get back to lamplighters. You can get rid of all the blue lights.
Get rid of the blue lights.
Just have some lamplighters.
Yeah.
I think it's true, and I find it like a weird. I mean, like coming from like All In podcasts where you're like, you're supposed to be a fucking venture capitalist, like, and why are you stuck on this idea that like the industry won't change? Like, isn't this the whole point of you? Like what are you doing?
It's a weird debate to keep having every week as well, seemingly, because it feels like it comes up almost every episode in some way about AI, and it's like,
I mean, I think it's because it's Jason and he's the moderator, so he just brings it up. And he also has no imagination, like, unfortunately. But I mean, it's rooted as well, because I've had this before where I've talked to people. I was like, look, it's like if you commoditize intelligence and you say like, okay, well, intelligent tasks can now be done, it is really hard to think like, oh, well, where would you want to focus? But it also, when we look at jobs and we say like, jobs are going to disappear, nobody will have a job, you're like, well, that kind of implies that we've done everything. Like we've done it, like we're done. Like there's no more like science to be learned. There's no more breakthroughs. We can't travel any faster. We can't go anywhere else. We can't build anything new. And it's like, I'm pretty sure we're not done. Like there's more stuff to do. Like I can't go to a theme park on Mars and I don't know, like, get a foot massage, right? So there's that. Like we could do that.
What kind of theme parks do you envisage on Mars?
I don't know. Maybe like a Westworld. It's probably, it will be the Wild West at that point, depending on like where we are in the orbit.
I've never gotten a foot massage at a theme park.
I was trying to think of something that you might want to do that would be a bit weird.
Mission accomplished.
But there's a lot. Like there's a lot of stuff we don't have. There's a lot of stuff we could have. There's a lot of stuff we could build. There's a lot of breakthroughs that we could do. So, and we're not doing any of it. There's a whole bunch of stuff we're not doing. So we could do that.
Let's just
like,
do
there's
that.
Plenty
you
of stuff
can
to
just
do
that.
Yeah, exactly. And like really, jobs are just doing stuff. To try and make stuff better and cheaper and easier for everybody else, and to get rid of those problems. So it's it's kind of like, I mean, maybe that's why it's hard. If you become very wealthy, you don't realize that there's still problems in the world, and that your imagination suffers. I can imagine.
Maybe it's also a debt issue. Like when you're very like highly constrained by debt, it forces you to become like more insular in your approach to taking risk as well. It's like, I've got this job, I'm going to stick within this container because I've got to pay my mortgage. That's going to keep me occupied for the next 30 years. I can't really afford to do anything differently.
Oh, I think that's true. But then losing your job is also.
Agreed. Yeah.
People have always said this, like, oh, you know, it was horrible and I lost my job, but it was kind of the best thing that ever happened to me, because then I had to actually confront what I wanted to do, and I went and did this instead, and it was so much better. Like, but I never would have left. So it's, you know, and again, if you wanted to look into like, all right, nobody knows what we should do. All right, if everybody became unemployed, I bet a lot of people would be looking at it and trying a lot of different things. And then as people tried things, some of them would work and people would notice they worked, and then more people would move into that area. Like it's just, I kind of see it as a bit of a lack of imagination. Like, there's stuff to do. We don't know necessarily what we would do if we weren't doing this, because it's hard to think about that. But, you know, I don't have a flying saucer. I'd like a flying saucer. Like, why can't my van time travel?
That would be good.
That would be useful.
Very
Like, can we have a think about that? Is anybody looking into time traveling commuter hiatus? Like, or
hit us up at the pods if you're working on this.
I've always thought it'd be good if I could teleport the van, because I can go back and like visit the family.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know, if I could just teleport the van, then I could fit enough stuff in there.
Yeah.
And we'd have like a bed and stuff. We can go camping. That'd be really useful to have it. But I can't, or I can't even just ship the van there. Like, why isn't there like a cargo plane that I can get on, you know, in the van, just drive on like a cruise ship, and just get off like 2 days later.
Yeah, it is a very good point about
like, it's just
teleportation.
Like, why can't I do that? Like,
whenever you see this in movies, like people just teleport, but it's just them. They're never able to take essential items with them.
I'd rather take the van.
Yeah,
because you're always like, well, how do your clothes get there?
Yeah.
Well, if your clothes can get there, can a suitcase?
Yeah.
Like, well, so why don't they ever take a suitcase? Or is that like just not cool? Like, is there like a field around the thing? Like, how does it work? Why can't I take a van?
Well, obviously, there's enough for you to be fully clothed when you arrive, because often that's the thing that identifies you as someone from the future.
Except in the Terminator.
True.
Where you arrive naked, and then you have to steal boots and motorcycles.
Yes. Well, there you go. But yeah, I think this is like actually going to be quite useful for juniors, because juniors are always like scratching around, trying to play. They're playing around with the like newest tools, and they're experimenting and they're learning. And I feel like that is a good state to be in when there's a lot of change. Yeah, you want to be at the cutting edge. You want to be thinking about what the future could look like, and actually be experimenting in kind of like a low stakes kind of way. Because I mean, when you're younger as well, there are just fewer risks. Like, you can bounce back from pretty big setbacks because you've got time. Yeah. So it seems to me like every time I hear this, I'm like, it just doesn't seem to. I just don't seem to be able to grok it. It feels a bit unnatural that younger people are going to be worse off by this.
So let's try and steelman it a bit then. So if you had, because maybe there's some truth that, like, if we're saying that, like, maybe a bunch of junior jobs aren't there in the same way they are. Well, that means that. Does that mean that you don't get any senior people? Maybe you get there a different way. And then you would say, okay, well, if you get there a different way, does that mean that you're more or less qualified to do that job, or do you need to be qualified to do that job? Like, what are you missing? Yeah. I mean, my view is that if you really do need senior people, then there will be senior people. Like, you know, there will be. Yeah. Like.
But like, what constitutes seniority? Is it time, or is it experience? Is it wisdom? Like, what?
I don't know. Like, this is like, you know, what is a senior lawyer? Well, right now it's a particular path that you go down. Yeah. But really, what you're not saying that, like, all right, what you're saying, I need something to be done, and like this person can do it. You're not saying that, like, oh, I need something to be done, and it needs to be done by somebody with at least 10 years experience in that chair. Yeah. Like, that's not usually what you're trying to do. So I don't think it's like cut and dry that you definitely need somebody that's gone through like a very specific path, because even in an industry, everybody's path tends to be a little bit different. So, well, then why would it stack up that you had to go through, you know, do you have to like spend your early 20s sleeping under a desk in order to be like, good at like seeing where the mistakes are in a contract or thinking through legal theory? Well, probably not. You know, maybe you'd end up with better senior lawyers if they all spent like a long time in business. Yeah. I know.
I definitely think if you were to steelman the legal one, like the bit that comes with like more time in the seat is just experience. You get across more let's just say cases, even though they're just files, really.
Yeah.
You just, like, by virtue of being involved in more things, you get exposed to more of it. And then you've seen this stuff before, and you've talked to people who've seen this stuff before, and, that compounds over time. And I think, so in that kind of an industry, that's quite handy. It's not just the, like, interpretive elements of looking at legislation or looking at a contract and going, is this written correctly, or what risk does this expose you to? It's, I know that in this industry, contracts have always been written in a certain way that has exposed counterparties to risk. And so what we try to do is a bit different now. And that is just wisdom, I think, that comes with time and experience in the role.
Like you also see a very similar trait in, like, good CEOs that I've worked with as well. They tend to know legal risks a lot better than the lawyers that they're dealing with, in my experience, because they're the ones that actually have to wear all the risks.
Yeah.
So even there, I would be like, I can imagine that somebody well versed in a particular industry would be very across all of those risks and could offer a similar service, like, if that service is required.
Yeah.
I also think it's not, like, the stuff that we're talking about there, I'm like, this sounds like exactly the sort of thing that technology would take out quicker. It's like just being aware of more experience and, like, pattern matching across stuff.
Yeah.
I know it's not like how AI works at the moment, but if you were going to think about a more structured approach to, developing legal systems and how they would work, you could see, like, how, like, a good, a graph of legal precedents that can be queried easily. Like, it's not that the AI does it; it's that the AI will help you build these systems that then I think can replace people.
Yeah, and I think the systems thinking is the bit that's missing, especially from law. Like, if you go and have this conversation with a lawyer, and I've heard this, they will just say to you, well, the AI just hallucinates and bullshits to me left, right, and center, and there's too much risk embedded in that. So why would I listen to
this? I think this brings us nicely to another fallacy.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is that the AI is the intelligence, or that the intelligence is the knowing. I don't know what I would want to call it, but it's this idea that because I think we picked up on a little bit last week. It's like we called it artificial intelligence, probably kind of rightly, but it kind of conjures in your head that, like, the LLM is, like, the intelligent thing, and it kind of undermines the idea that there's actually, like, a whole system around the LLM, like, and even, like, the more intelligent models or systems that you use now, or, like, why ChatGPT of, like, number 5 goes so much better than a lot of the number 4 is that it's because of the systems around it, not necessarily any improvements to the model. It's not necessarily like an LLM that became better and stopped hallucinating. It's that they put controls in so that you check facts. So, you could use an LLM to write a statement, and then you could use another LLM to inquire that statement and say, okay, list me out all the facts. And then against all those facts, you could do a Google search, and then you could check stuff.
Yeah. And
that would be a very simple way of getting rid of hallucinations. And I think a lot of this stuff is getting done in the background. This is why reasoning models appear so much more competent. I think it's more that they actually take the time to go and read stuff. They have up-to-date information. But and I think this plays out into that AGI thing where they go, okay, well, if we just spend more and more money on GPUs, we get smarter and smarter models, and then it becomes a PhD, and you're like, but I just think that's the wrong framing. It's like, I mean, smarter models will, fine, like, if they're slightly better models. I honestly don't think we need them. I just think it will be like a bump. But I think the thing that you actually want is to think of it like a computer that also has a model. And to me, that's the right framing for this, because you say, like, well, a computer was always better than you at maths. Like, all the advanced maths that we do in the world is done in computers. Like, you get to a high enough level of physics and you basically start computer programming. Like, because you need to be able to talk to the computer in a clearer way. You're not doing shit on a blackboard anymore. Like, this is not the world. Same with maths. Like, at some point in your maths degree, you start going like, oh, I have to start programming in Maple or MATLAB or whatever it is that you start to use. And it's because this is, like, computers are smarter at, like, all advanced mathematics. They're way better at remembering stuff. like we've had databases for years. This is like why stuff doesn't disappear off the internet. Like, you know, it doesn't just get forgotten because we're not talking about it. If you write it down and you copy it and you copy it again, then things just don't get forgotten. And this is all like just standard computer things. They were always there. And then I think the only real difference is that you can talk to it.
Yeah. Well, that's where the form
it
factor
can
is
like
important.
translate what you've said into multiple different things. And I think particularly like because we were fed the call and response, it feels like that's how it should work.
Yeah.
And it's not until you start, like, say, programming it yourself, where you go, oh, well, I've got a question. Well, what if I didn't answer the question? What if I took the question and I copied across like 10 different threads, and then this one looks at it like this, and this one looks at it like this, and this one looks like, and then another one comes in and looks at all those and says, this is the answer. And you go like, huh, okay. And at that point you realize that, like, yeah, it's the model is like, it's a function in the computer. It's not the intelligence. It's a very important bit for interacting with humans.
Yeah. No, I agree. But I also think that what's relevant there is the actual form factor for interrogating the computer. So for math, we have a calculator. If you ask a language model to solve the maths problem, well, it's a language model. So this is where it's going to start making stuff up, right? Because you're trying to use the chat interface as the value. But the thing that's valuable to you for solving the math problem is the calculator. And if you don't know what formula to use in the calculator, then you could potentially talk about it in the language model. And go, okay, help me understand like how to solve this problem with the calculator. But that seems like it's a step removed. People want to be able to get the answer directly from the chat model. And I think like similarly, like if you were to solve a legal problem, do you want to be able to do this call and response, or do you need to just be able to chat about the problem? And I think maybe sometimes it's like, just solve the problem for me, and the language model as general purpose isn't best place to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I also think that like when you think of like the model, the AI, the chat interface, whatever, is like more like a person.
Yeah.
Like you start to tease out some things that are kind of weird, and you would go like, if you were sat there, if we were both sat here and there's a calculator on the table here, and I said, Andy, can you work out the differential of this for me? You'd be like, look, there's a fucking calculator here. Just do it yourself. Like, what are you doing? Like, do you want me to fucking Google that for you? It's just like, and that's kind of how we're treating a lot of the AIs, is that like we're asking it to use tools on our behalf. And sometimes it's set up to do that and it works. And sometimes we ask something that's not set up to do that, to do it. And like so say ChatGPT 3.5, it was never set up to use tools. It was just set up to talk to somebody and see if you can integrate in a conversation. And then we put tools in it and we went, oh, it's smarter now. And it's like, it was because we gave it tools. It's like, it didn't used to have a calculator, and we would go, can you do 1 + 1? It'd be like, oh, it sounds like it should be 2. Seen that written down somewhere? It would be like, and you go, okay, well now do this. Now count these things. And you're like, all right, well there's not, like, can I have a tool? No! It's like, no, you can't. Have you got a tool? Yes, I'm checking it with this tool. It's like, well, just fucking do it yourself then, dickhead. Like, don't use a language model to do maths. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Why would you?
But this,
use a maths model. But use like, maths to do maths. Like,
the same reason why I think a bunch of lawyers just don't see the value in this is because they're essentially asking like the general intelligence of an intern to go and solve a very complex problem that only very senior lawyers actually know anything about. And then they're like very disappointed when it doesn't give them the correct answer. And it's like, well, if you were talking to another human who has like really broad context, like let's just say a fresh university graduate, and you ask them to solve a very complex problem that you probably need a senior associate to solve, would you be surprised if they got it wrong? Like,
but also, would you, even if you a senior lawyer who are doing that, would you look in a book? Would you write any notes? You know, like, would you have a chat with a mate? Like, there's like, it's like you really do. They're kind of constrained. It's like, and it's not that none of those things can happen. It's just like, it's just not been built as a system yet. Like, you could have like a system of legal GPTs or whatever that like all talk to each other about like case law and develop new strategies for stuff like all day long. I mean, we don't, because we just don't know if that's useful yet. Maybe if we didn't have any jobs, that's what we'd be doing.
We'd be
like,
exploring
that's a thing
that,
we could do. We could explore that. We could have
in between
build all these different insane situations.
In between time travel and foot massages and theme
I mean,
parks.
let's nail let's nail teleportation.
I feel like that would be a valuable one.
Or at least, like, can we have like a big cargo plane that I can ship a van from Australia to the UK?
That would be
like,
handy too.
come on, like, what are we doing?
See what the RAF are doing. They've got the big globe masters.
There's a mate of mine from uni, and he was saying like his grandparents came to Australia like post World War II, and they flew their car to Australia, like in an old cargo ship from the war.
Right.
So there's so many cargo ships from the war, it was not ridiculous for them to fly their car to Australia.
See, that I would have just assumed that would have been an absolute luxury.
Probably.
Back then.
I mean, it probably was. Even just going to Australia was probably a bit of a luxury. Like, I'm pretty sure that's the story that he told. And they were reasonably well off, I think. But you just like, all right, well, if you could do that in like 1960 or 55 or whatever it would be.
Yeah.
Like, can I not do it in like 2025?
Why can't
like,
we do this,
aren't things supposed to get cheaper and easier? Why are we not focusing on, like, you know what, guys? That was pretty sweet when we could have cars going across. Being like, why can I not just have like more than about 9 inches space on a plane?
Yeah.
Like, can we solve that? Like, come on, guys. Like, there's a job.
People are working on that, and their solution is to have everyone
7
stand.
inches.
Yeah,
It's
it's,
like-
it's getting smaller. You'll stand on long haul flights, and
There's no need. There's no need. Let's make it better. We could make it better. We don't have to make it worse. Not everything has to get worse.
You do see this a lot, though, where practitioners who develop like a certain level of experience will then leave their job to start a competitor. But it's essentially just the nth version of something that's already been built, because that's what they know. So it's like we're actually taking all of the kind of the thinking around how this could be better and replacing it with how has this been done, and I'm just going to do that because I know it works.
Yeah.
And I think that's the bit that becomes a bit more questionable. There's like very little value in continuing to create the nth version of a thing that already exists, unless it doesn't exist locally.
I think that's valuable. I think that's just how you drive down costs. I don't think it's necessarily how you like invent whole new industries.
I think there is like a point of diminishing marginal return. Like after a point, like it's just you've just saturated this. So there's also very little upside for you.
But then there's more competitors, so the costs go down. Like, that's what I mean. Like, it's not necessarily like that gives you a new industry, but it's an important process.
But this is also part of the reason why people start new businesses, is not to chase diminishing. I mean, people do chase diminishing marginal returns, of course, because like that's just naturally what will happen.
Like, there's no shortage of like nail salons and hairdressers.
And and a lot of this stuff is, I think, going to benefit from being more hyperlocal. But similarly, I think if you're going to keep looking at like how do we just keep making people's lives better, which is kind of the point of the business, you kind of need to do that thinking on top of that framework.
But it's also true that, like, you know, there wasn't a shortage of mechanics when a mechanic opened like just round the corner from my house, and I was like, perfect. I can drop off the car and walk back.
Yeah.
You know, and like that did make my life better. And then everybody from the local area just started using that guy because he was there.
Yeah.
And so there, you know, it doesn't always have to be like, you know, like the startupization of stuff where you
of course.
Make something new. I think like just more options.
No, I'm not suggesting it has to be entirely new.
Yeah.
I'm just suggesting you kind of want to find that thing that makes you unique. Sometimes that is just skill.
It could be locality.
Yeah,
it could
sometimes
be skill,
it is.
It could be customer service.
Exactly.
It could be brand. It could be like facial hair.
Yeah.
You know, who knows?
But often doesn't happen with like lawyers. What I'm saying is like often you'll go and you'll set up a law firm.
I'm
in the same
perfectly
building
happy for all lawyers to go out of work and for us not to need as many lawyers.
Yeah,
like,
that's I mean, there is that.
Not to wear my heart too much on my sleeve.
Yeah.
But that's okay as an actor.
We have picked on lawyers a bit, but
there's probably too many lawyers, is my view.
Yeah, I do think this like this second fallacy exists to some degree, especially amongst lawyers, as a result of the first one, because a lot of people have come along and said like this is going to, you know, take your job. This thing is like, you know, like essentially a step removed from general intelligence. Like we're all going to succumb to this at some point, and then people use it and they're like, well, it's shit, right?
I think part of this is that startupization tech bro of stuff where it's the person that would come along and present that to a bunch of lawyers isn't necessarily a lawyer. And I think you kind of have to be a lawyer. Yeah. Like this is where I actually think a lot of that would be driven by like some of those more junior or like, you know, say senior associate style where you're good, you know you're good, you understand this, you know enough.
Yeah.
you're not quite the partner here, but you go, you know what, I think I can get better outcome here by going this way. Like I could see that, because you need to understand. Like, it's like, you know, we called ourselves the other stuff, right? And for various reasons, and one of them was like, we don't know the ins and outs of your business. You do. So we don't want to tell you how to run your business. We want to show you that there's other stuff that you can bring in that was going to help you, but you need to own it. You know, like you don't want me to write like everything for you for the software that you use, because I don't know it all. Can I try and learn? I can try, but you probably know better. So you need to be heavily involved in the development of the thing. So what we can do is build a platform that helps you do that, but you need to do it. Like we can't do it for you. We can just do the other stuff. You need to do the stuff. It's always the way. And I think that's why a lot of these things do fail, because you'll have somebody that goes, all right, well, I've got a technology, I need to think of a use case. They think of like something that sounds like a good use case, but they've got so little knowledge of all the nuances of how the thing was done in the past and why it was done in a particular way, that it just doesn't really fit. But then the sort of success stories you hear are somebody like, a doctor goes like, I've been a doctor for 400 years and I just quit my job and started this company. It's going really well because I solved this problem that really pissed me off all the time. And I was able to do it because of AI. And you're like, yeah, I can see why that works, because you know exactly how to talk about that problem. You know exactly what the problem is. Like you've experienced it for 400 years. You can, and if you solve that, you probably know how to sell it. You know exactly how much it should cost and what you could charge for it.
The startupization approach to this produces companies like Harvey, which is like very general purpose, and it has to be, because they're trying to sell it to as many lawyers on the planet as possible. And of course, like, lawyers are highly discipline specific. You know, they all operate within their subdomains. And so, like,
the language is different. The approaches are different. Like,
if you want
a barrister is not like a commercial lawyer.
Well,
it's a different.
Just go even a step deeper, right? If you work in energy law and you're producing power purchase agreements, like, is your subscription to Harvey going to help? Probably not. But if you built a graph around energy law and had all of the relevant legislation in there, had all the relevant case law, had all of the best practice around power purchase agreements that could help you in that niche, that would make a lot of sense to me and would be quite valuable. But it makes sense that that is also developed by someone that understands power purchase agreements and actually how they should be structured and how they should look. And
it would also look less like an AI tool. Right?
Exactly.
But the thing is, you would probably need the AI to then almost like, you'd use it to load the graph in a way, and to make it easier to inquire on the graph. But it wouldn't be the core technology.
Which is the bit that I quite find fascinating about all of this stuff. You know, like, maybe this is a kind of a fallacy as well, that maybe or maybe not, I might be assuming it, but like, instead of just trying to build in this kind of traditional startup vein, where you're an inch deep and a mile wide by necessity, you can just build for yourself and your own use case. And I think that's like one of the other things we've gravitated back toward with other stuff, is to just basically like show people the magic, and then allow their domain expertise to take over.
A little bit accidentally in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like, we gave ourselves a decent amount of rope to just focus on whatever was interesting. Which was, in some ways, a short-term bad commercial decision. Because that's not a highly monetizable period of time. But I think coming out of that, now I'm like I see very clearly where I think we're going with Wingman and other projects, and how it all dovetails into other stuff. And it seems very clear, and I don't think we could have done, like, even like we did like the workshop yesterday again for touchdown block. It's like I don't know if I couldn't run it that easily. Like, even if let's say something like Replit is quite a similar tool to Wingman in there's agents embedded in it, it will run locally, the development environments to it. Like, how it's going to be more annoying to get everybody that has never touched Replit before to sign on to Replit and to like download various things. Like, I can't curate that experience in the same way that I can inside Wingman, where it's just like, all right, here's our link. Like we give them one link. So yeah, I won't say the URL. So I don't really need a bunch of people to be turning up on those systems. But you know, I flick a switch, which allows everybody to just sign on, set up, then I flick it off at the end.
Yeah.
It's just like, it was just so easy. Like and even that, like, you know, you were there like a half an hour before the session. I was like, oh, you know what, this is going to be a pain.
Yeah.
I'm just going to update this whole system. I know, like, maybe I shouldn't update stuff.
Yeah.
Like 20 minutes before we start, but this is going to make this so smooth. And it was just so smooth.
Yeah,
like, everybody's on board and nice and easily.
Yeah.
We have a big joke about everybody's names that they got, and then we're away. Like it's like I can't do that on somebody else's system.
Well, I think that what was interesting is you have like a really disparate group of people sat in the room. They all have their own domain knowledge and experience. They all have their own
guy on a
needs.
fucking Steam Deck.
Yep.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Playing on a little game console.
But it's cool, right? Everyone's going to have their own needs.
Yeah.
And like the traditional approach would be, okay, we're going to gate this information.
Yeah.
And we're going to gate this experience, and you're going to come to us with a set of needs.
Yeah.
And then what we're going to do is we're going to scope it and tell you how it actually should be, irrespective of what you think you need. And that's the kind of the traditional like consulting model. And it, again, like who knows their business better than the people running them? They have a lot of that domain expertise. We do not. And so they may as well be like, we just should remove all of the gates.
Yeah.
Come on into the theme park on Mars, get a foot massage, learn how to code, solve all of your own problems. No foot massages were doled out. Don't want to set the wrong expectations for Touch Don't Look, because it is called Touch Don't Look.
Okay, yeah. Like, you wouldn't know if you, because you weren't looking.
But yeah, I think that's going to be the real unlock, is that people with some degree of domain expertise as well, getting across the tools, getting across what's possible, and us removing those barriers with them.
Yeah,
it's going to be really empowering.
Well, I think it works because it plays into the actual power of like AI as a technology. It gives you agency. All right, so it's not that useful to listen to people tell you it's really good at like this use case or that use case. Like you really need to go, all right, but if it's a thing that gives me agency, then I need to take agency with it, which means I need to use it. Like it's not, there's no agency in listening to something.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you gotta do something.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's maybe like, because we do, you know, we have people build out a to-do list, and it sounds a bit trite, I think, because like to-do lists exist all over the place. But what you realize is like almost everything in business is like setting tasks, and then following up on tasks, making sure stuff got done. And so if you have that as like a primitive, it's quite then easy to imagine that like, oh, you know what, this whole process that I've got could just be like this, because we've got this list and it's got stages, and this happens, and then this person gets told and they get told, and like shit, now I can write the task, and I can read the task, and they can do stuff. And you're like, oh crap. Like when people build this in like an hour, and then they go, all right, I used to spend money on Trello and I can replace that. I used to spend money on, Slack, I can replace Slack. I used to spend money on this. Like shit, I could just not have any of this crap, and I could have it do exactly what I want. Because I've always wanted this CRM to do this, but it fucking doesn't. And it, like, everybody just tells me it's going to cost me 50 grand to make it do that. And it's like, all right, just like ask for it and you get it. You're like, it's nuts.
Yeah.
It's so much more powerful to get exactly what you want for your business, because your business is unique and it does do stuff different. So do it. I don't know. Like, I think it's massively impactful. So I like that it kind of respects like how the tool works and what I think people need. And like, I think we're seeing that response from people. It's like, oh shit, like I can, as you said, like I think in the first one, like you were sat there and you just casually copied the new sort of Basecamp to-do list app that they had.
They released it that day.
Someone yesterday was like, she said, like, I work on this system all the time across multiple different clients. Like, could it do that? And then you're like, well, ask
try it. Yeah.
And so at the end, she's just like copying the whole thing out into that. And he's going, oh shit, I can make this. And then, we were telling her about like where we go next with Speedrun, and it's like, oh yeah, that's I would want that. It's like, yep, that's the point. You can have what you want.
Yeah. I think this was like one of the early indicators for me
Yeah.
as well. Like it was just going like, oh, I have a tech stack that I run locally just for myself. Like, what am I actually using here? Because you do kind of, there is this 80-20 assumption that's baked into a lot of this tech. It's like, do I actually use all of it to justify spending it? How often do I use it? Am I using it to its maximum potential? And like, invariably the answer is probably no to all of those questions, especially when you could just spin up a version of it that you need that can run locally. That's been like really eye-opening for me to just go and replicate a bunch of stuff in a kind of lightweight form as well. Because you don't need all of the additional features. Again, this is the startupification of all of this stuff. It's like, it needs to be an inch deep and a mile wide in order to cater to an ever-growing pool of people that we can sell to.
Yeah, well, it's just
they all
that's
need
the
slightly
business
different
model,
things.
right? No one's going to pay 10 grand for it to do this. Will somebody pay? Will like 10,000 people pay $1 for it to do this? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's why I build something that's good for more people. Like, I need to build something that's good enough for 1 million people, so that every now and again somebody pays me some money.
Yeah.
I think it just leads to bland, awful software, and there's no reason for software to be bland. Like, it should be different for every person that runs it. We want the re-Winampification of the web.
Winamp skins.
You know, like, your software should be unique to you. Because you are doing something different to the next person. Just because you use similar functions doesn't mean that everything should be the same.
Yeah.
And you should be able to customize it. And I think that is coming. I think it will be glorious.
Yeah, that was just a more fun era of the web as well. Just going through, remembering all the Winamp skins. It was a fun time.
I think it's partly because we were children.
Yep. It was a fun time.
But it was a good. No, I mean, it's the internet that I kind of like. You know, it's we use a lot of like pixelated. As you can see in the things. It's just partly accidental, as in like it was a quick way of creating a surprise and like, you know what,
it looks good.
I like it because it reminds me of like the good parts of the web. And it's true. Like that was a good. It was a good time, but I think it is useful to have. It just doesn't make sense to me that like computers can be unique. And they probably should be, because you're probably trying to do something a little bit different. Like in the same way that like it's more fun when buildings are unique. It's more fun when like people have different styles. Like it's not like great when everything looks the same. You know, like it's a bit boring, it's a bit bland. Like, why do we have such bland software? We don't need to.
Yeah. And I think that was part. I mean, when people are like unique as well, you know, when people actually like lean into that authenticity, it makes them more interesting as well.
So here's a question for you. I think when we set out to do Touch Don't Look, there was a bit of it was unclear to us like what we should do to give people the aha moment. And I think we were maybe a little bit unsure that like, is coding something the right way to go? And we ended up going with it because we said like, all right, it was our aha moment. So maybe it'll work for everybody else. I feel like we've done, so I'll probably count like maybe the Bosso one as well. So there's like, kind of like 3 different workshops now. What's your opinion on that?
I think why that's useful is because most people are non-technical.
Yeah.
And most people have this limiting belief that they can't do it because they're non-technical. And this just collapses that limiting belief in on itself very quickly. Like within like 20 minutes, it's pretty much cooked. And then you start to think about all of the things you could potentially do. And I think you just see that in the room. You see people going, wait a minute.
Like,
Could I do that? And that just starts a whole chain reaction of events in their minds. So I do think it's like the right space.
I was like, it was a bit of a bet, I think, but I think it was the right one.
There might still be some resistance up front until you get people into the room, potentially, because they might still just go, it's
that's fine.
not for
Those
me.
people are close-minded. Fuck them.
Potentially, you know, but even then, like, there might just be this might just be the case of seeing other people do it and talk about it, and then that also helps shatter that limiting belief to some degree as well.
Well, because I think we also take there's steps in this. Like, whilst we make a lot of stuff smooth, there's other steps where we talked about. I think we talked about before the session, right? Where I said, like, you know, I feel like I can make this the bit like where we're like cloning stuff from GitHub.
Yeah.
Right, stuff like. I could make this way simpler because I know what you're going to clone. So I could have a wizard. Like, we could make this nice and easy. If I did that, I think it would hit less hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, so there's a few areas where we put in a bit of friction, just so people are aware of what they've done.
Yeah.
And I think that helps. So, but it's, I think the interesting thing is to go like, because you want people to go like, oh, so this is just like some open source. I can get open source software and I can do this. Like one of the guys in there was like, you know what, I was doing some work in this app, but I can publish this to GitHub, which means I could then I could pull that into Wingman and just carry it on here. And you're like, yep. It's like, oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah,
like people start to make these links just because they've had those breadcrumbs. And I think it is true that like it being sold as a technical thing, or as like vibe coding, like will put some people off. But I think those people were probably never going to do it anyway.
Potentially, yeah.
And then it's enough of a claim. I also think that like, because I think originally we'd said like, all right, well maybe we'd start with the speedrun bit because that's the bit that's going to be valuable. But I think speedrun is like too much for people. It sounds like you just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so you need a kind of bite-sized version to come in and go like, nah, you can't make me replace Trello within an hour, where I spend the first half an hour like getting some food.
Yeah,
It's just like no, like we'd have to be like on it. Surely it'd be one-on-one. It's like nah, there'll be a group of us, and we'll just sort of like casually do it as we eat. And they're like, nah.
I think I mean. The group aspect is like really valuable as well. Like we've known for ages that this like kind of cohort-based learning is like the way to go as well. But I also think this like dovetails really nicely.
Actually, at the end yesterday, I said, "Oh, it's really nice like being in the group and everybody's doing it. And people start helping each other along."
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you also just see other people's ideas, and you're like, "Oh, you can do that. I could maybe do this thing over here," and like you just see them bouncing off each other as well, which I think is like very hard to replicate online. And
that's interesting. You know what I should have done? Actually, I did a bit more in the first one. Was like I can use the admin account to like jump into people's apps,
show them up,
not with
screen.
their data, but my own, and then like pull them up and go, let's see what this guy's done.
Because there were some really interesting takes right across the room. People were doing it in their own unique way, and like initially people played it safe. I think they were like, let me just make like a small change and see it come through, and then I'm like, oh, okay, like we'll just make the whole thing red and make it as bright as possible and see what that looks like. And they're like, oh, it's too bright. And then there's this like nice process that starts to evolve. But it also plays nicely into marginal gains, I think, because you get this bite-sized taste of what's possible. You go away, you might come and do speedrun as well. I think that's going to take you deeper into this as well, around what you can actually go and build. Then you're going to want this every month because you're just going to start thinking about all the things that could be done. But also, again, that's a cohort. So you're going to be able to bounce around other people who are also doing similar things, and that feeds off of itself. I think that's going to be really valuable. Whereas like trying to do a lot of this stuff in isolation, I mean, we had each other for a lot of this as well. We were able to bounce stuff off each other and show each other everything we were doing. And that was really valuable. Like if we were doing it in isolation, maybe, it wouldn't have been as fun. So you want that feedback as well, that feedback loop there. So I think the series actually like supports each other very nicely.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, like we said with the marginal gains, people will start bouncing off each other. They'll figure out, oh, that's a good idea. You realize several people want it, and then we just do that as that month's rapid prototype. And then the point of that is that, like, obviously we can create a solid, effectively like back-end infrastructure that then several people can build on top of. So instead of it being like, you could come up with some ideas, you can test some things, and then why not then give it us and we'll effectively productionize it for everybody else. So then you've got something that you can actually build on that's not going to fall to bits. But it makes sense, like, the economics work at that point because you couldn't just do that for that sort of price for people. Like it doesn't work. Whereas if you can deliver into a cohort of people that are all going to use it,
Yeah, exactly.
that's doable. That's
Exactly.
like a 1,000 true fans model, right? That's the way to approach it.
It is like we've got quite an interesting education business that's wrapped around like tech enablement as well with AI. I think it's quite a nice space to be in.
I'm quite happy with where we've
Yeah.
ended up.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's interesting, right? Because I think we had this idea
Roughly, yeah.
early, but it was more community based. Like, we didn't have like Wingman does a solid lift of giving us like a platform. I think just it wasn't obvious to me to make everything Nostr-based.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's like, well, but nobody knows Nostr. It's like, well, they don't have to. I can just give them a key. And it's like, oh, here's a username and password. And like maybe the username and password recovers the key. So, right, great. And you go, okay, well, that's pretty easy for people. And it's like, oh, but now you've got a key. Now I can do everything for you, like from your browser. Like, I never even need to see the key. It's all in the browser, and now you can sign into 1,000 different things, and I can just keep building services that work for that. And I say you can then curate the whole thing. And like, so I don't know if I want to get into any discussions on it yet.
Yeah.
I'm like
Save it.
insanely excited about where I think we go with this. I've got big plans.
Yeah.
So I was proud of the memes yesterday.
Yeah. I think we've landed on a nice spot as we hit the hour mark as well. Where do we? Was there any other like fallacy? I feel like we hit a couple of the big fallacies we wanted to.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll wrap there.
All right. That's the good stuff.
Nice.